Good morning. Welcome to the Do No Harm series with Rebecca Karchere and myself, Mary Von Ohlen. Today we'll be talking about prescription medications and looking at those under the light of harm versus harmony. Rebecca is a medical intuitive, a healer, a nutritionist, and trained in many different holistic modalities. I'm a holistic recovery coach, have worn various hats over the years, but I specialize mainly in helping people enhance their recovery from addiction, grief, life transitions, and basically stress management. Dealing with life on life's terms in a healthy manner. Rebecca, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be talking about prescription drugs today, and we're going to be talking about whether it is harmful or not. And I want to read to you a little quick anonymous proverb that we found online, and I had it featured on my website. Not sure if it's still there, though. And it goes like this. 2001 BC, here, eat this root. 1000 AD, that root is heathen. Here, say this prayer. 1850 AD, that prayer is superstition. Here, drink this potion. 1920 AD, this potion is snake oil. Here, swallow this pill. 1945 AD, that pill is ineffective. Here, take this penicillin. 1955 AD, oops, bugs mutated. Here, take this tetracycline. 1960 to 1999 AD, 39 more oops. Here, take this more powerful antibiotic. And 2000 AD, the bugs have won. Here, eat this root.
That's fantastic.
So with that, there you have it. Where shall we begin on the topic of prescription drugs?
Well, just tying it in, if you didn't already see our last episode that was about when and why to be your own general practitioner. And we talked about what it's like to go visit a traditional medical doctor, your GP, and what happens there. And one of the things that we talked about is that typically at any given time, if you go see your GP, most of the time you're leaving with their solution that they give you is some type of prescription medication. One of a few top categories, like antibiotics or steroids, painkillers, etc. And we said that we would get into that in a little more detail in this episode. So we're going to do that today. And as always, we invite you to just have an open mind. Many people, many Americans are on prescription medications. You might be one of them. You might be on one or many. And there's no judgment here. This is just about education. Information is power. So as always, Rebecca and I are here just with the mission to empower you and to consider harm versus harmony, what is best, what's ideal for us, and maybe bridge a gap in between a place where some people feel stuck in the medical model alone and then and maybe fearful or just not knowing enough on how to navigate and integrate this other side, if you will, of really coming from a more natural place and tapping into our natural power to heal ourselves. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's get into a little bit about the the different categories of medications, right? What happens when you go see a doctor and get prescribed medications, and how effective are they? What are the types? And what are the alternatives, if you will? What are the other options that we have that aren't always presented to us?
Wow.
What comes to mind, Rebecca?
So much. Okay. So let me just preface with, this medical model is faulty. It has a lot of holes in it, so to speak. So I just want to give you, and I know this from experience, but you want to take, for example, like antibiotics, for instance? Do you want to break it down like that?
Why don't we start with each one? Sure. The common categories.
Okay. So that's what I wanted to say. These doctors, they're trained in medicine. They're trained in prescription drugs. So it's not their fault. This is the system. This is the model. that's what they're supposed to do, is they're trained to give you a prescription and you go fill the prescription and take the pills. That's the model, okay? And they're not going to necessarily offer you anything else because that's not their training. So let's just be clear about that. How come my doctor didn't tell me about all these other alternatives? Because that's not their place. That hasn't been their place, because we've created this system that's very closed-minded. And so people like myself and Mary and thousands of people know that there are many other alternatives, many other solutions, and it's up to us to know what they are. We cannot rely on doctors. So when they give you an antibiotic, okay, this is what I'll just basically say what I offer. If you truly have a bacterial infection, again, it's tricky because each person requires their own. I'm going to give you some generalizations, but everyone really needs to be checking either, and I teach about checking yourself through muscle testing. You want to energy test yourself to a particular product, which is very sophisticated, but yet you can learn it, and that's what I'm doing in addition to this. But let's just take the antibiotic. You have a bacterial infection. What can you do on your own? There's something, I'm thinking that the one that, it's tricky on your own. I always recommend Conjuplex. Conjuplex is from Standard Process, and that has to be prescribed, so to speak, from a healthcare professional. So you'd have to get it through me or someone like me that has a reputation with Standard Process. But that's my go-to for bacterial infections most times. Next to that would be Thymex, which is for acute bacterial infections, and you may want to do a combination of both. And then there's something else called Andrographis, which I also recommend, and that's kind of like an herbal Conjuplex. But again, I don't want you to feel disempowered by me telling you those are the ones that I use, because if you can't go to the store and grab them on your own, you know, I'm concerned about, you know, I don't want to misguide people. It's about empowering. But being that if you don't have the skill set, that you'd want to work with someone like myself, like a naturopath, and that, you know, that's what I would recommend. Now, naturally, it's pretty safe to recommend for bacterial infections, garlic, raw garlic. You make that at home. Something else that would be natural would be like oil of oregano. Okay, so those are just some examples, and then I'd still want to advise one way or the other. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Do you want to go over it now with steroids, for instance? There's a couple of things you'd want to consider, or B vitamins, adrenal support, like something called Drenamin, for instance, or a ginseng. Those are some general recommendations for as a steroid. What was the other one? There was steroids. Pain. Pain is tricky.
Pain. Mm-hmm.
California poppy is very good. I supply that from MediHerb through Standard Process. That's very good for pain. There's also, they make what's called Salagesic, which is very good. Yeah, so that would be my first go-to for pain.
Yeah.
What else?
I don't know. I just wanted to interject there to let people know, you know, we're talking about right now physical, biochemical substances that you can utilize in trying to remedy your own illnesses, because we're contrasting that to the prescribed medications, right? So right now you'll hear Rebecca and I talking a lot about herbs, vitamins, different types of natural remedies. But please know also, comes to mind when we talk about pain, for example, there are a host of other holistic modalities that can help you in managing your pain. Okay, so we can put links in the bottom of the episode, but I use emotional freedom technique is fantastic with some pain, and bring in the mind-body aspect of what's really underlying the pain to begin with. PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic fields, and we can go on and on. There's other things that we utilize, but today, just for the sake of this discussion, we're really basing it on speaking more about the physical things that you can take physically to address things from the inside out.
Yeah, and this is just really, I'm just giving you options, but they're endless options.
Right.
But the point is that your doctor's not going to even touch this at all, and you're only getting a fraction of a solution. Some other bacterial that I was just thinking, some herbs that help with bacterial infections would be, there's one burdock, there's sarsaparilla, and there's yellow dock. Those are very good for bacterial infections. But again, you want to know which one is right for you, and it's probably best to consult someone. Okay, so why do we not, and I'm just going to be blunt, why do we not like prescription drugs? Why is this on the Do No Harm show? I do not like prescription drugs, but for long-term use, I'll say. For long-term use, I find that the thing is that they do not heal you. And I am a healer. I want to get to the cause, to the roots of someone's health problem. And you cannot find it in prescription drugs. You cannot. And so therefore, it doesn't fit my definition of health. Short-term use, yes, it has its value. But with each prescription drug that you take, it forces the body to act in a certain way, what force means is that whether the body is willing and able and ready, it's happening. And when that happens, there is a backlash. There are repercussions. Have any of you seen the lovely commercials about prescription drugs and the potential side effects?
Don't take this drug if you are under 21, over 21, pregnant,
yeah.
or on X, Y, or Z other medication, and I joke, but it has become a running joke with people when once that was finally, which is a good thing, required of the drug companies to include the warnings in their commercials. Hey, at least they're doing it in the commercials. Many, many people go to see their doctors, and the doctors they don't have the time, and again, it's about the system, to go over every single potential side effect of these medications. And they're really doing people such a disservice, because I work with clients all the time, and they tell me some things going on, and dizziness, double vision. And the first thing I ask them is, what medications are you taking? Talk to your doctor about that, because that's a common side effect. And, I didn't know that.
The long and the short of prescription drugs is that they force the body, and they don't cure your ailments. In fact, I had on a previous episode talked about how 97% of prescription drugs do not cure. So why would you take them? And the side effects are practically worse, if not worse. So the approach that we are advocating is for the body to heal itself by removing whatever caused the problem in the first place, whatever that problem is. And that is patient specific. Basically, the difference between myself or a general practitioner is very simply this, that they are, like I said, disease management specialists, and they are not coming from the place of what is the original blueprint of this person, whereas I am. So the original blueprint of any person is, you're looking at the organic material of that person. You're looking at everything that makes up a human being is alive. And we all know vitamins and minerals, macronutrients and micronutrients, water, the spirit, the soul of the person. That's all alive. So that's the premise. And so what I do when I look at somebody is, where are their deficiencies, where are their imbalances, and let's restore these imbalances. That's not the approach that they're taking. Their approach is, let me shut up this symptom. And that's a disservice. So that I feel that it's a disservice. So you're going to be, if you take a prescription drug and you don't deal with the underlying issue, you will inevitably be on this drug for the rest of your life, practically. And the problem, the root, will never be resolved. Does that sound like a solution? So that's just that's just ensuring their income. Whereas working with myself, for instance, or another healthcare professional, we want to get you in and out. Okay? Maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2 months, but the point is the supplement protocol, for instance, or the lifestyle regimen that I give you may or may not be for the rest of your life. Okay? Obviously we have to exercise, obviously we have to drink water, but as far as like a supplement protocol, you're not going to be on it indefinitely. So that's the difference, because once the body is restored and healed, there's no need to keep putting these same specific nutrients in. Anyway, do you want to interject?
Sure. You're doing great. Just to make a note on that, again, being realistic here, it's a business model, right? So if we talk about, it shouldn't be, our health and our healthcare shouldn't be a business model, ideally, right? But it is. So looking at the medical model, just to reiterate or add to what you said, Rebecca, it's like, if you think about it that way from a system standpoint, what's more viable business plan? Giving someone something and that gets them well in a matter of months or year, versus just kind of giving them something that they have to buy over and over again, probably for the rest of their life, to turn off the symptoms, so to speak. And so that's like residual income. I think about some of the most commonly prescribed medications, especially with people, with adults, older adults. It's like, how many people are on cholesterol lowering medications like Lipitor, right? And that's a whole nother, we could explain why that is not the best thing to take for your heart health. But what happens is people end up on that for the rest of their life, as opposed to, like we said before, their medical professional explaining the correct ways, honestly, the natural ways, the reasons why their cholesterol might be off, and how to remedy that with their lifestyle in natural ways. So that's just one example. And Rebecca talked about steroids. There's also, you hear about non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, right? And so with that, and that comes up a lot with pain management as well. So just to give a little example, some of you may remember hearing about Vioxx about 10, 15 years ago, in the early 2000s. And Vioxx came out and was, approved by the FDA for arthritis, for arthritic pain. And I think it was estimated about 20 million Americans were on it. Okay, that's a pretty substantial number, right? And so billions of dollars made. And then what happened was, again, let's think about harm versus harmony. Arthritis pain or risk stroke and heart attack? Well, people didn't know that because it wasn't accurately articulated. The true potential detriments to this drug got pushed through the market. And that's a whole nother story. You can look it up on your own, Vioxx. But they ended up pulling it off the market because people were dying. Okay, it was causing strokes and heart attacks. And just short of $5 billion later in lawsuits settled, Merck, one of the pharmaceutical giants, pulled it from the market. So when you think about that, that's just one example. But how backwards is that? You're taking something to try to decrease inflammation, force the body to decrease inflammation. And as Rebecca said, you force the body to do something it's not meant to do, and it's not ideal for you. There are going to be other, ramifications, other consequences. So that's just one prime example. And then we talk about pain medications. And that's a whole nother topic, and don't get me started, because, working in the addiction recovery field, I see this all the time. And so, not only are you just trying to turn off the pain signal and manage people's pain that way, you're not getting at the underlying cause. Then many people become addicted to the pain medications. We know that it's an absolute epidemic now. And then what? And then if they are able to successfully, the minority of people successfully get clean, get sober, and get off, get into recovery from their addiction, they still have whatever underlying problem caused the pain to begin with, and it was never addressed. And now often what I see is that it's worse because whatever whatever mechanisms were at play where they were utilizing and then usually abusing the pain medications. Sorry, my cat is making noise over here. She's on my notes. Sneaked in here to get in on this discussion. Whatever they've been taking, I think just interrupts our body's natural way to manage all of this, makes it worse. So then when they get off all of it and are clean and off all the pain meds, suddenly not only do they have the pain they had before, it's probably worse because they were masking it and going about their business, and probably, creating more injury, adding insult to injury, literally. And also who knows what the pain medicines mechanisms have done to their bodies, and brain's ability to deal with these things. So what I see is that people's pain seems worse when they get off it. And then that's when they really need this type of holistic help, and it's not being offered. And a lot of doctors don't know what to do. They really don't. It's not really their scope. So we're in a real bind there. And that's where I get fired up about that and psychotropic medications. But I'll take a breather and let Rebecca chime in.
Nice job, Mary. Right. So we are advocating getting to the root cause. The root cause. Let me just get airy fairy on you for half a second. The root cause is always a lack of forgiveness, a lack of love, a lack of self-acceptance, and so that is our power on a spiritual and on a soul level. And that just to remind you, back in this is a series. Back what we said earlier when we set the groundwork for this is that disease or symptoms are there to wake us up. On a spiritual level, on a soul level, it's to wake us up, to get us back to love and life and laughter. Okay, there's my airy fairy speech. Usually here's an example, arthritis. People that have arthritis, I find that they have unforgiveness and resentment towards a particular person, just as an example. So you understand, unless they forgive this person, and usually this person, they go to the doctor, they get their medication, and they still hold the resentment towards this person. The doctor's never going to say, well, maybe you should, forgive your relative. And, they never get to that point. They don't see us as the Trinity that we are. And so that's their solution. And that doesn't work anymore. And so please consider the fact that we are a Trinity, and you do need to forgive whomever for your own benefit, and stop hiding behind prescription drugs and avoiding your own healing. And I say that avoiding because it's in your power to heal yourself when you can surrender the judgment and surrender the bitterness. And so that's what it takes. It's really, true health is taking back responsibility and owning one's power. And this approach about prescription drugs there's no power in it. It's so disrespectful to our natural state, our essence. The example that a prescription, just to give you a little example of what prescriptions do. Mary, I'm sure you've heard this. I've heard this a million times, but we'll say it again. Your house is on fire. The smoke alarms are going off. And your general practitioner says, wow, that noise is really annoying. Let me help you, and I'll pull the batteries out of the smoke alarm, and my work is done here. That's the example of what a doctor does when they're handing you a prescription for whatever it is. And so my approach, do I even have to say it? You see the difference. It's very logical. And so there's no need, I'm assuming our audience is intelligent enough to realize the insanity of that approach.
Let's put out the fire and find out, why did it start in the first place? What caused the fire? What were the different elements involved? And how do we prevent that from happening again?
and let's repair the house.
Mm-hmm.
So using natural, again, what is the body made out of? It's, you know, we're designed to eat organic, which organic just means carbon containing substance. But in this day and age, organic means there's no pesticides sprayed on it, but whatever. But yeah, eating organic food to rebuild the body. You can't take a prescription drug, or even I think we're gonna talk in a later episode about synthetic supplements. They're not well accepted or absorbed in the body because they're just not natural, and they do cause harm to the body long term because they're not coming from an organic source. That's really important to know that. That's why I only use whole food supplements. And so that's for another time. But I think I covered all my points, and I hope that those of you who are listening start to ask some better questions, or have a better holistic team to help you. Or my favorite book that I always recommend right out of the gate is Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, that book. So you can get an understanding of how did I get in this situation, and how can I heal myself and get out of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will just chime in on, since I said we'd mentioned some of the key, common categories that people get prescribed medications for. Quickly, we also, I think we can talk about like antihistamines. There's a whole lot of things you can take that are natural antihistamines. Pycnogenol, for example. There's so many. And Antronex, there's a bunch from Standard Process that the company Rebecca mentioned before. Antifungal, I thought about that too. It's like people end up with, fungal infection, let's say on your feet or something. It's like, you're going to be prescribed drugs. It's probably going to come back if you even get rid of it. There are things you can do, like, you mentioned oil of oregano. You could use, olive leaf oil. There's so many different essential oils that can treat, effectively get rid of fungal infections. Again, we're just naming a couple random things just to give you examples to know that there are, healthier, more effective, less harmful, not harming solutions. And then the big one, that I see probably most is people being medicated, in the realm of psychiatry. So, and even general practitioners now, will write prescriptions for Xanax and Prozac, etc. Again, those are just a couple of the common ones. But anti-anxiety, psychotropic medication, it's supposed to be dealing with in the area of mental health, right? So anxiety. So you hear about anti-anxiety pills, okay? Antidepressants, supposed to help you with your depression. And then mood stabilizers, that's where when people get labeled bipolar, manic, schizophrenic, schizotypal, all these different disorders from the DSM, doctors will match a certain drug to that. The idea is to supposedly treat some type of biochemical disorder in the brain. So without getting into a whole discussion on this, let's just suffice to say what Rebecca said before about everything else applies to this as well. Okay, we are body, mind, and spirit. There are physical, emotional, and spiritual elements that certainly contribute to mental health being out of balance. Okay, and having symptoms that are a sign of your mental health being out of balance. We do not have I don't know anyone who is deficient in an antidepressant or deficient in Xanax, for example, but rather that their brain perhaps is not producing certain neurochemicals in the ideal balance, right? We could say that. Wouldn't you think in modern medicine they would use some objective testing? We can do so much now, right? Modern medicine. To evaluate and really look at exactly what those deficiencies are, if that's supposedly what it is. Did you know that, I remember learning almost a couple decades ago that neurotransmitter testing exists, and usually it's only like naturopaths, chiropractic physicians, nutritionists that know about this, ways to measure your neurotransmitter levels. It's through urine. I think urine testing usually could be saliva testing too. Like you look at your hormone levels. And why would you not at least do that? If you're looking to, if it's supposedly a biochemical imbalance, let's look at some objective data. But what do they usually do? It's subjective. I'll never forget when I was working in the school systems in the counseling world and in public schools and hearing about, in an affluent area and having teenagers say that, admit like, yeah, my friend was prescribed some, what was it? One of the, not Ritalin, Adderall, one of the dopamine reuptake inhibitors, meaning, forcing your brain to utilize the dopamine and the synapse a little longer, not helping it produce more dopamine, just forcing it to utilize it in a different way. One of her friends had been prescribed that, and one of the, what she thought attractive side effects was weight loss. So here's a teenage girl who thinks she needs to lose weight and realized that, hey friend, how did you get that? How did you get that Adderall? Oh, I just went to my doctor and said, because I was having trouble in school, I was having trouble focusing. So this girl then talks to her parents, says, I'm having a little trouble focusing. Think I can talk to the doctor? Goes to her doctor, says that, gets it prescribed. So then you've got a kid that's on something that's, again, potentially a habit forming. Not only is it like inappropriate, perhaps for the first person, now it's the second person who just lied to get it so that she could hopefully like lose a little weight the easy way. Okay. That's speed, right? Adderall, Ritalin, those are speed. They're like class 2 narcotics like cocaine. Okay. And here we are just prescribing them, just willy nilly and just based on, oh, how are you feeling? Okay. Let me give you this. Okay, that's not customized. The only way that they claim to customize things is saying, okay, let me listen to your symptoms. Let me check with this manual and go, okay, if you fit like 6 out of these 12 things for X amount of time, you probably have that. We'll give you that label and we match this medication to that. Okay. So I'm going on a little rant here, but I'm just trying to paint the picture for you that this is the system and this is generally how it works. It's so backwards, it's just disheartening because I see this all the time. And it's, so the bottom line is, going back to the do no harm, are these medications helping? And I know people that swear by their medications, hey, a little bit of whatever, and my depression's better. Okay, that's your choice, okay? And God bless you if you're someone who's not harmed by it, to your knowledge. But so many people are not really explained, I think, when it's not really thoroughly explained when they visit their doctor. Here's what could happen. We hear it on a commercial, but you don't always hear it when you really need to hear it. And that is that a lot of the times the side effects, the potential side effects, are more harmful than the symptoms that you presented with that they are supposing to treat, right? So many of the psychotropic medications, okay, if you read the side effects, the warnings include may cause aggression, may cause suicidal ideation. Rebecca and I could tell story upon story if you really wanted to hear the anecdotes, but of, and kids and adults alike who go in with a little anxiety and then go on a drug and they get worse. And suddenly they're cutting or suddenly they're suicidal. And this stuff happens all the time and it's underreported and people aren't talking about it. So that's my spiel for today about that. I just want you to, again, think about what is this really doing? Is this addressing what's the underlying problem? And do you need this long term? And do you have a plan with whoever your health practitioner is to, in the long term, be addressing the underlying causes so that you're not reliant upon something that's doing more harm than good?
Yeah. Perfect. Think. Use all of your faculties in genius and don't trust your GP alone or your specialist alone. Do your own research, and everything is available to us these days. And don't take one person's point of view as gospel. Check in with your gut and you have your own inner guidance in place, and you make the decision for your own life. So thank you for watching. And we could talk all day about this. Please contact us if you have any specific questions or concerns. I would like an appointment for either one of us. But there's just endless solutions. So don't settle for a prescription drug, especially for the rest of your life. Please, thank you.
And tune in next time. Our next episode will be about another equally, if not much more hot topic. We'll be talking about do no harm chemotherapy and radiation.
Yay!
Joy. Real happy topic.
Joy of the world. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing with your friends. And we will see you next time.